In today's episode of the Python Presents podcast, I have a very interesting guest here with me today. I mean, we had a lot of startups on the show, growth companies, growth-minded people on the show, and today we want to sort of actually, talk with a team that is actually helping those teams to grow and navigate their path from, growth to 1 million annual revenue. Now I'm talking with the folks at Co.Labs here. I have Dallas Price with me on the show. He is basically, or him and his team are helping Saskatchewan tech startups to grow their company. So today we want to deep dive into how all of this works, but also how Dallas is thinking about growth for the organization. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lucas. Really appreciate being here today.
Of course. So maybe give us a quick 360 overview. What is Co.Labs all about?
Yeah, for sure. So CoLabs sits at the center of the Saskatchewan tech ecosystem. For those who are not in Canada or the US, Saskatchewan is a province that's basically in the middle of Canada. Population is about 1 million people. I sit in a city called Saskatoon that the population is about 250,000. So really what our whole goal is to build up the tech ecosystem here. And we do so through an accelerator program and an incubator program. So we work with about 30 startups all year. And then we have 2 cohorts that run through the program that are between 10 to 20 startups. And the whole program is about taking people from that idea stage or early MVP stage and guiding them all the way to $1 million in annual revenue. So the way we help is through guided content sessions with experts, a lot of mentor introductions and mentor office hours. We have something called our expert program, which is one-on-one consulting agreements where we're bringing in people from seasoned tech executives or founders to help one-on-one in people's businesses solving actual problems, and CoLabs covers the entire bill for that. So the whole goal is basically you're starting out. Building a tech company is obviously not a very easy thing. And we're just here trying to make it like a little bit easier, guiding that path all the way to $1 million annual revenue, get you to your Series A, and get you off and running into the ecosystem.
Very cool. Very clear, very succinct. What types of startups are you working with? Like, is there a certain industry focus? Is there certain specific tech area that you guys are focusing, or is it across? Does it run the gamut?
Yeah, so just with like the province being smaller, we kind of have to be agnostic. There's one incubator here and there's one incubator in another city, and there's kind of some adjacent programs that help out. But really, yeah, our focus is agnostic. What that generally happens to mean though is a lot of B2B SaaS. I'd say like probably 75% of the companies we see that, especially the successful ones, end up being B2B SaaS. And what we see is a lot of is people with like industry expertise. Somebody who has deep industry expertise from academia or industry, and are taking that expertise and are looking to commercialize it into a technology product. So that's where we've definitely seen the most success, is somebody who has worked in the industry for 20 years, clearly understands a problem, clearly sees a problem, just needs help figuring out the technology side of things.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of things. So maybe let me know, how do these startups is? I mean, you mentioned being sort of in a bit of a smaller environment. I assume the name is well known, but maybe tell me, like, how do you kind of like source and find startups? Is there how do they hear about you guys? Is it all over the universities? So maybe give us an insight on that.
Yeah, so there's kind of like 3 main ways we really do marketing. Of course, we have our digital efforts, we have our email lists, we have a decent social following and are obviously posting on social. We run ads occasionally. That's one side of the business that's kind of running like the top of funnel, getting people who wouldn't necessarily know about CoLabs interested. Then we have our community and like partner-based efforts. So partners with academia, we have partners with economic development agencies, partners who are kind of doing something in a similar adjacent space. And all of those groups really come together to support each other, referring people who would be a better fit at different organizations, or a lot of people are in multiple programs at once. So yeah, there is a lot of partner efforts in working with those partners to figure out how we can actually help each of these organizations. And then the final one is this like very community-based, event-based side of marketing. We're running an event about every single month. We're getting between like 150 to 200 people showing up to these events. And that's really like we were probably one of the first organizations to really run a lot of tech events in the city. There just wasn't much of a tech ecosystem here when we started 5 years ago. So we've continually run events and built up that ecosystem. Obviously, took a little pause there during COVID. But yeah, with events, we see that as one of our biggest drivers of growth. When I first came on and I started doing interviews with startups, I think 4 out of the 5 startups I was talking to, the trigger that caused them to apply for the program was actually attending an event and seeing the ecosystem and being a part of it. So I really see events as kind of like the bottom of the funnel or the step before an application, where people really get to see what the ecosystem's about and what the point of being connected with Co.Labs is.
Yeah, you mentioned the funnel there, and then I think in this context it's actually quite interesting, right? Because it's a little bit different than a B2B SaaS startup, for example, that is getting their leads in for a demo and then getting started. So how do you think about the website? Like, does the website play a role? Like, sort of, many marketers obviously measure closely the traffic, the conversion rates. How is that in this context? Is that still part of marketing? Is it different?
Yeah, for our website, a lot of leads end up coming through the website. Like, we have a pretty simple conversion funnel. It's, you fill out a form on the website to book a call with one of the individuals on our team. But yeah, like when I first came on, the website kind of barely explained what I did, and that was kind of my first big project, was redoing the website. So we actually let people know how we could help them and what our programs and services were. Really the basic stuff. But yeah, definitely our website is integral in how we convert people, and it's actually something we're looking to ramp up with, like more blog content, more SEO content, driving more people to the site, and just like creating an easier conversion process.
Very cool. As we sort of slowly but surely moving towards the end of the interview, right? We got to learn what you guys are doing, who you're serving, types of guys you're working with. Now, what I'm curious is, you as a marketer yourself, where do you personally like to educate yourself? Like, where do you find good resources? What's your, with all the noise out there of content for marketers, where do you personally like to educate yourself?
Yeah, I've always been like a big podcast guy. So there's like Growth Marketing Toolbox is one of my favorite. The Growth Hub podcast is big. So I think podcasts are always great. But lately I'd say like there's a lot of one-on-one conversations that I'm having, and that kind of seems to be the best driver of these things. One of the cool parts about my position is I get to talk to a bunch of startups and a lot of people doing a lot of cool things. So more so than anything, like I feel like through the community we've built here and, activity on LinkedIn, if I have a question, more so than anything, I'm just reaching out to other individuals who are doing super cool things and asking them questions. Other side of things, I really like Demand Curve. They have a cool program. Julian, I think, is like a rock star marketer and just everything they've done. So really like their assets as well. He's got a super great handbook on growth marketing that I pretty much recommend to all of our startups and make them read at some point. So yeah, big fan of their work as well.
Awesome. Very cool. Last question. If today would be your first day joining Co.Labs, what's the one advice you would give yourself for your journey as a marketer with Co.Labs?
That's a good one. First day, I think it's just like really understand like the customer and their journey. Like, you're really dealing with like a really large life decision. People are coming to, a lot of people end up quitting their job and going full force on one of these tech startups. So understanding like the emotional side of making that decision was huge. And you're not just gonna like get somebody to like drop everything and start a brand new business and go full force into it. So really understanding, that mindset that is required to shift somebody, and the amount of security, or like the safer you can making that jump, the easier for these people, and really getting in that mindset.
Very cool. Dallas, I really appreciate you took the time with us today to be a guest on Pathmark Presents. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about Co.Labs, what's the one thing people should remember?
If you're building a tech business in Saskatchewan, please reach out. Always happy to chat.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathmark Presents.
Thanks, man.